After recovering from our harrowing encounter with the Battle White and his evil minions, we backtracked through the Death Crypt, soon arriving back within the initial chamber we had descended into yesterday. Here, another hallway headed west, the only direction left to us. Following the dark hallway west, we quickly encountered large, sticky spider webs, some of which spanned from floor to ceiling 30 feet above. Through the webs, we could see that the hallway ended with a big stone door, currently closed. Naturally, we wouldn't know more unless the area was given a decent search. As we looked around, several giant black widow spiders silently descended from the ceiling to attack. Much enlarged versions of the ordinary black widow with a leg span of 2 to 3 feet and an orange hourglass on its abdomen, the venom of these spiders was strong, immediately defeating anyone bitten by one of the large beasts. The 5 giant spiders were a handful, but we eventually killed several of them and drove the others away. With the spiders put down, we turned our attention back to the stone door that barred any further progress west. The heavy stone door was reinforced with rusted iron bands and set into an ornate archway. A large brass keyhole was visible above the door's pull rings, while an inscription above the keyhole read "Find your key in the heart of fire." "It's locked," Huelsman announced after giving the door a push. "The door is quite sturdy, we're not getting past it without some sort of key." Inspecting the locking mechanism, I not only agreed with Huelsman but I suspected a very special key was required to open this door, likely a key hidden somewhere else within the Death Crypt. "It's a brass keyhole, let's try that brass key we found," Redfern suggested, reminding me of the key we recovered from the brazier within the sepulchre. The party consensus was to try the key and see what would happen. The brass key was a perfect fit and opened the heavy stone door, allowing entry. Beyond was a stone stairway that led down and sharply to the right. Passing through the stone door and descending the stairway to the west and then to the north, we quickly encountered a second stone door, this one with an iron keyhole and bronze bands. Above the keyhole was a message as well: "Find your key in the heart of the dragon." An iron keyhole, we should use that iron key we found. Ariana almost shouted, reminding me of the key we recovered from the wax idol found shaped like a black dragon. Again, the party consensus was to try the key and see what would happen. Naturally, the iron key was a perfect fit and opened the heavy stone door, allowing entry. Beyond was another stone stairway that continued down into the darkness. Following the stairway down, we soon came across dozens, perhaps hundreds, of magical candles that softly illuminated the way, followed by another demonic fountain, not unlike the one we found when we first entered the dungeon. Magical runes faintly glowed with a purple radiance all along the rim of the fountain, quickly attracting our attention. The stone steps seemed to then terminate at the base of a large archway, the area beyond bathed in total darkness. "These don't look like magic user runes," Redfern stated after a few moments of inspection. "Are they cleric-based perhaps?" "I can't tell," Sainairs responded, inspecting the runes himself. "Perhaps, I do recognize a few characters." "As do I," Kartha added, pointing out a few. "Yes, I think they're clerical in nature." Several moments passed by as the 2 clerics studied the runes, the rest of us keeping a healthy distance back. "I think the runes speak of death," Kartha realized, taking a step back herself. "Not surprising, given where we are. I recommend we leave the runes alone." "Agreed," Sainairs nodded, concerned for our entire party. "And then there is this fountain water," Kartha observed, testing the water with her bare hand. "I wonder if this has any magical properties?" The water looked harmless enough, so Kartha stuck a wet finger in her mouth, sampling the fountain water. A moment later, she winced in pain, the water hurtful in some way. "Ugh. I think the water acts as a cause light wounds spell, best to avoid it." Both the magical runes and the fountain water a bust, that didn't leave much else to explore. The stone archway at the bottom of the stairway looked intriguing, however, and it appeared that there was some writing on the stone as well. Nearing the stone archway and shining some light on it, I then read the rather foreboding message: "Death is only the beginning." "This is surely an accursed place," Huelsman complained, the evil and wickedness of the Death Crypt getting even to him. "Let's slay this Khaldun and get out of here." My heroes all agreed, and amidst the gurgling of the demonic fountain we pushed north through the archway and into the very crypt of Khaldun himself. Passing through the stone archway, our party emerged in a vast crypt. Hundreds of bones lay scattered across a black marble floor, so many that we couldn't help but step on them. As if on cue, several magical torches ignited throughout the chamber, casting an eerie light over everything. A dozen alcoves filled with more skeletons lined the walls, the bones themselves rattling in anticipation. Near the northern wall was a black sarcophagus, a red skull painted atop it. Nothing had attacked us yet, but it was probably just a matter of time. Searching the chamber and soon reaching the center of the evil crypt, we watched in horror as the many bones on the floor began to coalesce, drawing together into whole skeletons that quickly took shape and surrounded our adventuring party. While expected, the sheer number of skeletons formed was not 36 or so. "Bring it on!" Eswin shouted, preparing for combat. Assaulting us were 4 crimson skeletons, 4 skeletal archers and 22 skeletons. The clerics were able to turn a handful, but we ended up having to smash and pulverize most of the undead monsters, their bones again scattered across the pitch-black floor. A moment later, the lid of the sarcophagus slowly slid away. A frail, mummified humanoid then arose, its blood-red eyes shining through the gloom, and as it stepped out, the bandaged monster mocked our adventuring party. "I have waited many seasons to take my revenge on the living, starting with all of you." The mummy then staggered toward all of us to attack. As he did so, the skeletons in the alcoves lit themselves on fire and crawled out to attack as well, 3 fire skeletons that could burn us on contact. Even another skeletal cleric joined the fray, all of them attacking us with bitter hatred. While we had encountered the fire skeletons and skeletal cleric before and knew how to deal with them, the mummy was a monster we knew nothing about, and although its attacks were slow, each touch caused a sort of magical rot that permanently scarred each hero it touched. The battle lasted several frenzied minutes, several of us touched by the mummy's curse and losing a little of our health permanently. Eventually, however, we defeated the skeletal cleric, then the fire skeletons, and, finally, the mummy himself. Khaldun fell to his skeletal knees, the monster hissing at us while his eyes faded like the last embers of a campfire. A wicked curse escaped his fleshless throat, and Khaldun reached toward the stone wall to the north just behind his sarcophagus, the necromancer weaving a final spell. A black flame then erupted from the monster, disintegrating Khaldun forever, and, for a moment, everything within the chamber went quiet. The northern wall then descended, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Moments later, the armored skeleton of a black dragon shuddered, casting off layers of dust and cobwebs. The black dragon skeleton crawled out of its tomb and unfurled its sinewy wings, roaring loudly in our direction, green acid dripping from its cracked fangs. While not a living, breathing black dragon, this undead monster was almost as dangerous, probably the most challenging thing we had faced. "We have no chance of turning such a monstrous skeleton," Kartha cried, her eyes wide with fear. "Then we will do this the old-fashioned way," Eswin responded, readying his weapon. The undead black dragon roared again and then took to the air, about to strike us with its lethal acid breath weapon. "Scatter!" Redfern yelled, the wizard fully aware of what was about to happen. Each of us ran in different directions so the monster couldn't hit us all at one time, taking cover as best we could there within the massive crypt. The skeletal dragon still clever, it unleashed its acidic breath at Eswin, burning him badly and requiring the healing of both clerics to keep him in the battle. Meanwhile, Ariana hit the dragon with several arrows while Redfern unleashed his magic missiles, each doing minor damage against the monstrosity as it circled around for another attack. Moments later, the monster again spewed acid on several of us, causing more damage that required some quick healing. "We can't take much more of this," Sainairs cried, out of healing magic and fumbling for his last few potions of healing. "We need to bring the beast down to us," Redfern shouted in return, pointing in the dragon's direction. "Take out its wings." The leathery hide of the skeleton dragon quite atrophied and barely allowing the monster to keep flying, we hit the monster with all our combined missile weapons, arrows, and stones, soon perforating the wings of the dragon and causing it to crash back to the floor. Even more enraged now, the undead black dragon attacked us viciously, biting and clawing with a speed that seemed impossible. Despite their own heroics, first Eswin was knocked out of the battle, then Ariana, leaving just the clerics and Redfern to continue the fight. Desperate, I grabbed all the remaining holy water I had in both hands, waited for the right moment, then jumped atop the animated skeleton, slamming nearly 10 vials of holy water against the skull of the dragon. The glass cut open my hands and the dragon immediately bucked me off itself, but the holy water quickly tore into the animated bones of the monster, partially disintegrating its skull and causing the beast to collapse. With one final gasp, the bones of the undead black dragon then tumbled to the floor in an avalanche, kicking up great plumes of ashen dust that stung our eyes. The chamber then went quiet, the black dragon skeleton had been destroyed. Using the last of our healing potions, we revived Eswin and Ariana and made sure everyone was still in one piece, all of us gathering alongside the partially disintegrated skull of the undead dragon. That must be why the locals tried to destroy Khaldun years ago, Red Fern postulated, breaking the silence. Having brought the corpse of a black dragon to life, he would have been nearly unstoppable with his undead army. Now there is nothing left of Khaldun to harm anyone ever again. Sainairs added, still angry with the encounter. May he burn in the afterlife for all eternity. Let's look for treasure. Ariana added, hopeful that we haven't come all this way only to leave relatively empty-handed. While we didn't find anything within the large tomb itself, we did find quite the haul within the sarcophagus of Khaldun. Within were hundreds of coin types, several gems, pieces of jewelry and even what appeared to be some magical items. The treasure of Khaldun didn't disappoint. My heroes divided up the loot evenly amongst themselves, then we spent the rest of the day resting, regaining spells, and recovering from our ordeal with Khaldun and his black dragon skeleton. Returning to the bandit camp the next day, we no sooner reached the northern camp entrance when the men here raised a loud and happy cheer in our honor for defeating Khaldun, destroying his undead army and releasing the few bandit prisoners as well, who had since returned to the camp. The happy guards then insisted that we go and visit the bandit half-orc chieftain Xerxes again, as he wanted to know all about our victory over the necromancer. The march to his tent took just 10 minutes, his 2 guards letting us pass by without any challenges this time. Well done! Xerxes exclaimed as we re-entered his tent. You saved several of my men, we're all in your debt. Xerxes smiled, then led us back to his desk where a small sack sat, handing it to me. The bag had a few dozen coins in it. Given what you've done, my men collected what they could as a reward. It's not much, but it was the best we could do, please take this. There wasn't much in the sack, so I suggested to Xerxes that he give it to the poorest man in his camp. One of the men you rescued lost absolutely everything when he was taken, Xerxes responded, honored by my gift. Yes, I will make sure he gets this, thank you kindly. You've held up your side of the bargain, and we shall do likewise, the half-orc then stated, apparently intending to honor the agreement made the last time I was here. It will take a few days, but we will strike our camp soon and move on, just as we promised. Perhaps the next time you pass through we will be gone. And where will you go? Kartha asked, genuinely curious. Well, head north, back to the Deathcrypt, that should make the perfect lair for us. You mean you intend to maintain your thieving ways? Kartha asked again, this time more suspicious. The half-orc softly smiled, actually surprising us with his response. No, we have something else in mind, something that should be much more profitable yet honorable as well. Stop by someday and I will tell you more. Xerxes patted me on the back, then showed us to the door, the encounter over. Perhaps sometime soon if I found myself passing through the ruined chapel location to the north, I would want to stop by and check in on Xerxes and his men. For now, it was time to leave, recognizing that we had not only destroyed Khaldun and all his undead minions but greatly improved the lives of the bandits here as well, a job well done. And that's a wrap of episode number 22, Deathcrypt of Khaldun Part 2. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues. Look